Interstitial journaling, the 60-second tracking routine. Welcome to the Explainer. So, today, we are tackling a massive roadblock that pretty much everyone faces. I mean, whether you have ADHD or you just constantly find yourself lost in an absolute sea of browser tabs, this one's for you. We're looking at a concept called interstitial journaling, or, as I like to call it, the 60-second tracking routine. Think about traditional productivity systems for a second. You know the ones, the fancy to-do lists, the color-coded calendars, those elaborate reminder apps on your phone. And, well, they're great for planning before the work or reviewing things after the work. But they completely fail to help us in the exact moment we actually get distracted. They just don't protect us in the trenches of our daily workflow. And that is exactly what we are going to fix today.
So ever felt frozen by your to-do list? Let's dive into this. Have you ever just stared at a massive list of tasks and felt completely, utterly paralyzed? Or maybe you start a task, you switch tabs for just a second, and suddenly you have absolutely no clue what you were originally doing. We have all been there, and I really want to validate that experience right now. When your productivity falls flat, it is not because you don't care. It's not a lack of willpower. The source material points out that productivity usually fails because you simply lose track of what you're doing. The flaw isn't in your drive. The flaw is actually happening during the transition between your actions.
And that brings us directly to this concept, task paralysis. It's that feeling of being completely frozen by your to-do list, often caused by the friction of transitioning between tasks. You see, our brains actually struggle to bridge the gap between finishing one job and starting the next one. We like to think we can just seamlessly jump from writing an email right into analyzing a giant spreadsheet, but there's a gap there. And if we don't manage that gap, well, we lose our momentum, we lose our focus, we end up just staring at our screens, totally paralyzed by the sheer weight of figuring out how to start the next thing. And usually we just end up opening a new tab to fall down a Wikipedia rabbit hole about the history of cheese instead, right?
Now, the hidden culprit behind that paralysis is something called attention residue. That's the mental fog carried over from a previous task that clutters your working memory. When we switch tasks, our brain doesn't just instantly clear out. It carries this attention residue from the last job right into the new one. This creates a really thick mental fog that severely clutters up your working memory. Our brains simply aren't naturally equipped to handle multiple tasks concurrently without creating this fog. It is wildly expensive for the brain, like it costs immense energy and focus just to switch gears, which is exactly why you feel so exhausted after an hour of just bouncing back and forth between messages and emails.
60. So what's the ultimate solution to clear out this fog? Well, it's the core focus of today's Explainer, a routine that takes a maximum of just 60 seconds to execute. That's right, literally 60 seconds. We're talking about interstitial journaling. Now, the word interstitial simply means the space between things. So instead of journaling at the end of the day or first thing in the morning, you're journaling in those tiny 60-second spaces right between your actions. The entire goal here is speed and absolute friction reduction.
Fun fact, the concept actually originates from productivity and developer communities. Coders and developers deal with insane context switching all day long. They realized pretty quickly that instead of relying on their incredibly flawed working memory to remember what they were just doing before a bug crashed their whole system, they needed to create a live log for their attention, and that's exactly what this 60-second tracking routine is. It's a live, running log of where your attention is going, recorded exactly as it's happening.
I absolutely love this quote from Tim Ferriss that's highlighted in the sources. He says, "I'm just caging my monkey mind on paper so I can get on with my day." This is so profound because writing things down instantly offloads the mental weight. It's essentially a brain dump. Our working memory is incredibly limited, especially if you struggle with focus or have ADHD. And once those nagging thoughts or previous tasks are physically written on paper, your brain can finally stop looping on them. You're literally emptying your mind so you can focus on what's next.
So, why does it work for attention? Let's look at the actual brain mechanics here. This 60-second tracking routine acts as a super powerful executive function tool for three main reasons. First, it reduces your working memory load. You don't have to hold your place in your head anymore. Second, it interrupts unconscious task switching. You know when your hand just automatically reaches for your phone to check social media? Writing things down creates a tiny, deliberate pause that brings awareness to that automatic urge. And third, it creates continuous re-entry points. If you do get distracted, there's no guesswork at all. You just look at your log and immediately re-enter your task right where you left off.
Think of it like creating a mental save point in a video game. When you log a transition, you are essentially saving your progress. You've cleared the level. But here's where the real magic happens. Time blindness often makes us feel like we've achieved absolutely nothing all day, even when we've been running around exhausted and busy. By recording your microtasks, you provide your brain with a physical receipt of your effort. Every single time you log an entry, you get a tiny neurochemical hit of dopamine. It proves to your brain that time is passing and you are actually moving forward. It effectively gamifies your day to get you through that dreaded afternoon slump.
So the crucial point here is that this isn't just a record-keeping exercise, it's a reflection exercise. The source is bringing this great quote from John Dewey. We do not learn from experience, we learn from reflecting on experience. Unlike a daily diary where you write once at night when you're already totally exhausted, interstitial journaling gives you constant, real-time feedback multiple times a day. You are constantly giving yourself the opportunity to analyze your activities. This dramatically improves your metacognition, which is just your ability to think about how you're thinking. You'll start noticing your own behavioral patterns, like, oh, I always hit an energy wall right at 2 p.m., or I always get derailed by this exact same website.
Okay, so how do we actually do this? It's incredibly simple. Here's the 60-second routine. Whenever you switch from one task to another, step 1, write down the current time. Step 2, write down what you just finished, and maybe a quick note on what you noticed or how you felt. Step 3, write down your next immediate action. You can do this digitally. The sources mention apps like Roam or RimNote, where you can just use a quick timestamp command. But you can also just use a simple paper notepad kept open on your desk. Honestly, physically taking your eyes off the screen and putting pen to paper, it can be a fantastic, tangible way to create a hard stop between tasks and really break that digital spell.
Actually, scratch that, pay really close attention to that third step, identifying your next action. The sources emphasize a brilliant tactic here. Do not write down a vague goal like work on project. No way. That is way too big and causes massive friction. Instead, lower the barrier to entry. Write down open the Google Doc. By breaking the next step down to its absolute smallest component, you make it incredibly easy for your executive function to kick in. You completely remove the friction, and suddenly, actually starting the work feels almost effortless.
Let's compare what a normal loop looks like versus an interstitial loop in practice. In the normal loop, you start work, you get unconsciously distracted, you open another tab, and 20 chaotic minutes later you snap out of it thinking, wait, what was I even doing? Now compare that to the interstitial loop. You start working. You get the urge to switch tabs, but because of your new rule, you have to write it down. So you write, 10:18 a.m., opened YouTube. Just the act of writing that down forces a deliberate pause. You now have a conscious choice. Do I actually want to lose an hour to cat videos right now? Or do I go back to work? It turns invisible chaos into a visible, manageable choice.
And please, if you try this, hear this loud and clear. Your journal is a tool, not a judge. Seriously, if you get distracted and completely miss a few hours, do not sweat it. You don't have to go back and painstakingly reconstruct your wasted time or feel guilty about it. Just do a quick brain dump to reset your mental battery. The very moment you pick up your pen and write down your current time and task, boom, you are instantly back in control. It's about building awareness, not about being perfect.
What will you write down the moment this explainer ends? So I want to leave you with that question to end on. The key to beating task paralysis is acknowledging the gap between tasks, and this 60-second tracking routine is the bridge. Don't overcomplicate it. I challenge you right now, grab a pen, write down the current time, note that you just finished this explainer, and write down the exact micro action you are going to take next. Just try it for 1 hour today and watch how much more focused you become. Thanks for learning with me.